Yes, it's always a pleasure to have you join us as we commence the review of newspapers on Citizen 93.7 FM Abuja. My name is Lawrence Moiti. Welcome to this very interesting show on radio. And as usual, of newspapers lined up for review this morning. And during the second half of the show, we will take some stories and analysis, and that is when Mr. Salman Salami will be joining me for the second half of the show. All right, let's get cracking. We start with the Guardian newspaper this morning, and the paper leads with the World Bank story, just like so many other papers today. World Bank, Nigeria's reforms yielded stability, not relief for the poor. That's how the Guardian newspaper puts that story. Anti-graft agency investigates Ganduje over 4 billion naira contract allegation. And presidency reps knock claims of genocide against Christians to inform United Nations. And Mba's wife distributes bags of fertilizers to farmers in Enugu. Talking about the wife of the governor of Enugu State, FRSC impounds 151 vehicles in Zamfara State. 24th FIFA Under-20 World Cup, Argentina crush Nigeria 4-0. And INEC court orders IGP Egbetukun to arrest Yakubu. And orders military to flush bandits out of Kwara Forest. Senate swears in Edo Central and Anambra South lawmakers. And NECA partners police to empower girls, build safer communities. Sanwo-Olu commissions 420 housing units in Badagry. They start to mark 30 years of global impact and transformation. Cocoa farmers still live in poverty despite surge in prices. BOI unveils 2 billion naira empowerment loan scheme for NYSC members. All right, we move on to the Punch newspaper this morning. And the Punch leads with the World Bank story, just like the Guardian Newspaper's poverty report. And on fraud, Interpol arrests wanted Nigerian in Argentina. Government states IGR soars by 50%. Nigeria lost $1 billion in Northeast to conflict. This is according to the United Nations. LP senators shrink to 4 as Chukwu joins APC. And federal government ASU in high stakes talk. And Dangote refinery engineers on warpath over fresh redeployment. Flying Eagles suffer heavy defeat in World Cup blow. Federal government scraps revenue collection deductions, pledges fiscal transparency. And Christian killings, federal government disagrees as Khan backs U.S. senator. Zambia-based Nigerian and girlfriend are arraigned for manslaughter. And ICPC to arraign Kano-based Janet alleged 14 million naira fraud. And 13 more suspects arrested over 4.8 billion naira Kainji power plant theft. From The Guardian, we move on to the Vanguard newspaper. And the Vanguard newspaper has a different headline from the other two. And it says, new INEC chair for Council of States preview today. 139 million Nigerians living in poverty despite reform gains. That's according to the World Bank. Army rescues 37 hostages, kill 9 terrorists in anti-crime operations. Federalism at risk if South Supreme Court's decisions are ignored. Abuja lawyers petition U.S. Attorney General against Sowore, seek probe of financial activities. Akpabio moral clash over defection of senators. PDP security team calls for unity to ensure peaceful 2025 convention. And 2027, Atiku, Obi, Jonathan can't defeat Tinubu, Orji Uzor Kalu, former governor of Abia State and a current serving senator. My politics not for high and mighty, Obi replies those calling obedient street urchins. And your APC leaders blaming position for parties 2023 election losses. Sale of public assets responsible for Nigeria's infrastructure challenges. Adebayo. And Prince Adebayo is a former presidential candidate of the SDP. Okay, Wire resigned. Ex-Minister Uche Naji is still speaking. And market women extol the Oba of Benin for promoting Edo culture. We move on now to other Tribune newspaper. Uche Naji, APC now nest of certificate forgers, that's from the ADC. FG begs ASU to shelve proposed strike. And police suspend enforcement of vehicle tinted glass permit. That's from the Tribune newspaper. And quickly we move on to This Day newspaper. Okay, let's see. Tinubu inaugurates $400 million Nigeria's first indigenous crude export terminal in Rivers State. With reform momentum, it's time to bring gains to the people, says World Bank. NBA Atiku senior lawyers push for probe prosecution of Naji over alleged forgery. NCC moves to improve investment in broadband connectivity, safeguard telecoms infrastructure. And coming from the CBN, FinTech innovation collaboration will orchestrate Nigeria's digital financial future. That's from the governor of CBN. And there's a write-up here as the curtains fall on Yakubu's tenure as INEC chairman. And from the Senate, Deputy Senate President, North will repay Tinubu's kindness in 2027. All right, we move on to the Nation newspaper. How reforms are bringing down poverty by presidency. obviously in reaction to the World Bank report there. Rivers Varsity to host second global conference workshop. And court restrains Navy from arresting Vice Admiral. Enemy gets 1 week extension on Kano's health status. And WAEC to stakeholders over CB WASC measures in place to address all your fears. And police put tinted glass enforcement on hold. All right, New Telegraph is next now, and rumpus in Nigeria's downstream over Dangote's petroleum product distribution. And too many people are finding themselves in power without preparation. That's coming from Bishop Matthew Kuka there. NDDC gives 600 candidates scholarship. And the Nigerian Army to wipe out terrorists in Kwara Forest. And 210 trillion naira unaccounted funds, NNPCL responds to Senate queries. And Nigeria, yes, we've seen this before. Atiku calls for independent, comprehensive probe of FEC members. Court adjourns Nnamdi Kanu's trial to October 16. All right, Daily Trust is next now, and reps reject U.S. claim of Christian genocide in Nigeria. And Dangote refinery shouldn't be undermined. Sanusi, Kuka, and others. Wike bars Amak chairman from naming streets in Abuja. Don't politicize INEC chair appointment, Horiwa tells Tinubu. Zulum gift house to Anambra nurse who has worked in Borno for 20 years. Finally, we come to the Sun newspaper, and the headline here reads, Rep rejects U.S. bill alleging religious killings, country of particular concern designation. And still on the front page of the Sun newspaper, 3 African countries pick 2026 FIFA World Cup tickets as on spot. And back to politics. Why Atiku, Obi, Jonathan can't defeat Tinubu, coming from Oju Uzo Carlo. All right, we'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll go into the second half of the show, and that's where we look at some of the headlines in details. Please don't go away.
Stay connected to the heartbeat of the nation's capital. Tune in to FCT Today every Wednesday, 12:30 p.m. on Citizens 93.7 FM Abuja. Get the latest updates on news, events, and happenings in and around the Federal Capital Territory. From politics to entertainment, business to culture, we have got the inside scope. Join the conversation, stay informed, and be ahead of the curve. Don't miss FCT Today every Wednesday, 12:30 p.m. on Citizens 93.7 FM Abuja. FCT Today, your window to the FCT every Wednesday, 12:30 p.m. on Citizens 93.7 FM Abuja.
Did you miss out on the news during the week? Not to worry. Retrospect is here to make up for the missed information. Retrospect is a complete package of all the major news headlines that made the airwaves from Sunday to Saturday. Join me, Esther Musu, on the program Retrospect on Citizen 93.7 FM Abuja every Sunday at 6 p.m. Retrospect. We keep you informed.
Are you a student looking for a voice? Do you want to discuss the issues that matter most to you? Tune in to Student Affairs every Wednesday at 12:05 p.m. on Citizens 93.7 FM Abuja. Join the conversation as we dissect the latest trends, challenges, and successes affecting students from academics
to new generation. And this is your station. Talk Radio 93.7 Citizen FM.
Thank you so much for staying tuned. It's still Newspaper Review on Citizen 93.7 FM Abuja. And this is the second half of the show. And this is where we look at some of the stories in details. The phone lines are also open. You can join the conversation. Call us on 0903 2229797. That's 0903 2229797. You can also call us on 0818 22205. You can also call us again on 0818 22205. And don't forget, you can send a WhatsApp message on any of the two numbers, and you will be able to join the conversation. So, Mr. Salami is already in the studio. Good morning, Mr. Salami.
Very good morning to you, Lawrence, and our Super Citizen listeners. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Mr. Salami is the Chief Operating Officer, Citizen 93.7 FM. And as usual, we will be tapping from his years of experience and his massive collection of institutional memory as we look at some of the headlines today. Mr. Salami, let's start with the Guardian newspaper, and the World Bank story dominated virtually all the media space this morning. And this is how the Guardian puts it, because this story has different headlines depending on the coloration and the interest of the media involved. But the Guardian seems to have a more balanced story here. World Bank, Nigeria's reform yielded stability, not relief for the poor. And economic reforms have corrected past policy mistakes, held the country back from slipping into fiscal crisis, and stabilized the microeconomics condition, but equally increased survival pressure on the citizens, with the number of poor rising by an additional 58 million in 6 years, the World Bank has said. In its latest development update released yesterday, the bank warned that gains of the reforms, which are subsidy removal, fuel, foreign exchange market liberalization, and tax system, remain fragile and unevenly distributed, with the historical structural imbalance in growth and economic inequality deepening. Mr. Salami.
Well, we thank the World Bank for coming up with, as usual, statistics. And it's true, you need statistics to know exactly the trajectory or where you are going. But more than banding statistics, in practical terms, have the reforms been of benefit to the downtrodden masses? That is the question. The World Bank answered the question as well, that it is yet to be seen. The effects of the reform, the effects are yet to be seen by the poor masses, but that the government's policies and reforms are in the right direction if maintained. Let's be very, very practical about reforms, programs, and distortions. It is not something that you will see the effects immediately. It is gradual. That is if it is sustained. And that is how economic issues are, generally speaking. Even in life, if you are planning to achieve something, chances are that it will come in installments, in such a way that in the fullness of time, you will now begin to enjoy. I do not mind fastening my belt, provided those who ask me to fasten it are not loosening their own. Like you said, there is the need for the leaders too to lead by example. Flaunting of wealth by politicians and some public office holders is not encouraging. It discourages the masses. If you ask the masses to fasten their belt and they see you not even using any belt at all, let alone loosening your belt, so what do we say? In the midst of the grinding poverty that is pervasive, there is stupendous display of stupendous wealth, so to speak. Let's walk the talk. Yes, I'm still enjoying the masses to please still give the government a chance. But there is a need to emphasize the fact that the hardship in the land is real. People are facing multi-dimensional poverty. Let me rest it.
All right, Mr. Salami. I think the fact speaks for itself. And if you live in Nigeria, and if you are not the less than 0.5% of the very privileged who have virtually all their needs taken care of by the government. But if you live in Nigeria, Mr. Salami, any of the city and everything, you will see the reality on ground. There is no, you can't whitewash it. You can't talk yourself out of it. The hardship is real, yes, and it's there apparent from transportation to cost of living to everything. Just like you said, it's there. And some people will argue, like the presidency will argue that, yes, this rot did not start in a day. It was a gradual thing. And so if there's going to be a reversal too, it's also going to take some time. But I like the angle that you brought in, which is the sometimes very disgusting display of wealth by some of our political office holders. Sometimes you get very irritated. For people who know how public officers conduct themselves across the world, when you see how some of our leaders do and even brag about it, and you begin to wonder, when you want citizens to understand, to bear with you, on the other hand, you also display the fact that they don't really matter. Some of them flaunt the fact that, they can afford to pay for their wards, education abroad. Some of them flaunt the fact that they have 3, 4, 5 houses abroad. boasting about it on social media, and so many others. Sometimes you find this very irritating. But apart from all that, Nigerians need to keep a close eye on their leaders. Very, very important. From the local government councillors to chairmen to governors, members of the House of Representatives, senators, everyone who is occupying public office needs to be under the constant radar of Nigerians who will ask necessary questions and demand answers at the end of the day. Scrutinize whatever they say. This World Bank report, a lot of Nigerians need to sit down and digest it, put it side by side. Some of the reports coming out from different arms of government and ask questions. Elections are coming. The budget is going to be presented in the next couple of weeks. We need to ask questions. The 2025 budget, how far? What is the level of implementation? The provisions there. Ask your local, your House of Representatives and senators. Ask them these things that were in the budget for our state, for this constituency. What is the level of implementation? Has it even been started at all? And so many other things that we need to constantly put our leaders on their toes.
I agree with you. Honestly, I think citizen participation, there is the need for Nigerians to own government. It is your government. Even if in principle, there is the need to constantly ask the right question. Don't let us patronize them unnecessarily.
Yeah, Mrs. Salami, sometimes also we also need to look at the flip side. When you have a greater majority of the people living below poverty line, an hungry man, you used to say, I don't want to complete the statement, what you used to say about an hungry man. But when somebody is hungry, sometimes logic is left behind. Sentiments take over, and it's the sentiment of the stomach. The man wants to eat first. He wants to pay his child's school fees first. He wants to do, the basic things of life before you can now. If you are independent of all these things, you can take care of all these things, then you will have the moral right to look leaders in the face and say, no, keep your money, I don't need it. Do what you're supposed to do.
No more comment.
All right, Mr. Salami, let's move on to I think still staying with the Guardian. Presidency reps knock claims of genocide against Christians to inform, as the country is to inform the United Nations. And this is how the story goes. The presidency has denounced the recent comments by United States Senator Ted Cruz, who alleged genocide and targeted killings of Christians in Nigeria. Also rejecting the narrative, the House of Representatives described it as a misrepresentation of Nigeria's complex security landscape and a distortion of fact. The House directed that the United Nations be made aware of this development. However, rather than just condemn or reject the narrative, the Christian Association of Nigeria urged the federal government to take proactive steps to end killings and attacks against Christian communities across the country. Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, described the claims as false, misleading, and not reflective of the current reality. Mr. Salami.
Honestly, I really do not know how to begin the analysis of the story.
Just start somewhere.
Okay, I'll do. Clearly, criminals are on the prowl in Nigeria. And I've been saying it times and times over that if a Solomon does the wrong thing, it is not a Christian that did that wrong thing. It is a criminal. If an Abdullah killed somebody, it is not a Muslim that killed the person. It is a criminal. Let us distinguish between religion and criminality. It is when we begin to see crime as crime, not necessarily as perpetrated by the bearer of a name, whether Christian name or Muslim name. That is when we will begin to solve the problem of this country. ownership of criminals, collective ownership of criminals, or misrepresenting who did what is the beginning of our problem. And in as much as we continue to see issues from that prism, so much will still be in the woods. No doubt, there are killings, senseless killings. No doubt, criminals, like I said, and non-state actors are on the prowl. That does not necessarily equate to killing a sect, whether Christians or Muslims. And Senator Ted Cruz should know. If he doesn't know, he should inquire before making a very reckless and inflammatory statement. The statement he made was very reckless. It was a very, very reckless statement. He was trying to ignite a fire, and we as Nigerians should not allow him to do that. Do we know whose agent he is? The criminals are killing both Muslims and Christians. In fact, when they intend to kill, they won't ask you, are you a Muslim? Are you a Christian? The truth about it is that those who perpetuate all these crimes borderless about the religion you profess, it doesn't matter to them. They are not necessarily killers of a particular sect. And that is the truth. And please, let America know that Nigeria is a sovereign nation. And let our leaders, the federal government, call to question what this senator had said. Apart from that, I am not a lawyer, but I know that international law frowns, even conventions. The government should take this up.
All right. I think they're already doing that because there are moves to also bring the matter before the United Nations and stuff like that. And I also think that we should also be very careful in modeling up so that we don't model up a lot of reports, because when you see reports of sectarian killings, these are different. When you see reports of communal fights against maybe two communities over boundaries and stuff, and you take away the data from that and make it a general thing, it's a problem that we should really be careful about. And I think that the Nigerian government has spoken, and also the National Assembly has also spoken about that. Mr. Salami, let's move on to election matters. The Vanguard newspaper has a story. New INEC chair for Council of State preview today. Barring any last-minute change, President Bola Tinubu may present his nominee for the post of the chairman of the National Independent Electoral Commission to the National Council of State today at Aso Rock Presidential Villa. The tenure of Professor Mahmoud Yakubu as INEC chairman ends next month, and on Tuesday, he handed over to the most senior national commissioner, Dame May Agbamuche Mbu. Of the three nominees penciled down to replace Yakubu, Professor Josiah Ojo Amopito came highly recommended and would be announced after the Council of State has been briefed. That's according to the Vanguard, because there's really been no official release to this. A presidency source, okay, now we are going there, told the Vanguard that Professor Amopito, who hails from Kogi State, North Central, has already undergone security screening. He is currently the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration at the University of Jos. Mr. Salami, expectedly, the appointment of a new INEC chairman is generating a lot of interest.
Well, it must. It should. And it is doing so. And barring any last-minute change, the media is awash with who will be announced. And like we said, that as journalists, we at times engage in what we call speculative journalism. It is as speculative as it is investigative. But even at that, until the announcement it is made, we cannot say with finality who will be announced as the INEC chairman. But almost every journalist who is a sound and robust political reporter will tell you that chances are that Professor Josh Ojo Amupitan is likely going to be announced as the next INEC chairman. Well, a friend told me something yesterday and said that, Salami, so at long last, you are now appointing a fellow Ngbati to be the chairman of INEC. And I said that it's unfortunate that a journalist of your caliber, who is supposed to educate and inform, is talking this way. I think it is so banal to look at issues without digging deep and without allowing the brain, engaging the head first before the mouth. Professor Josh Amupitan, I am not Bayo Ononuga, and I don't want to do his job unless he retains my services professionally. And if I'm doing that too, I will say that it is not the opinion of Citizen FM, but it is advertorial or sponsored opinion. Well, we know this man hails from Kogi State. Kogi State is part of the north. We know that this man is robustly educated. He's a professor of law. And apart from that, he has experience. I'm not defending his proposed nomination. I'm just saying that what we should look at is this man qualified? Is he capable? Will he deepen our electoral process? Will he move it from where Professor Mahmoud left it and take it to the next level? We should be asking the necessary question, not necessarily the usual ethnic, religious, or other sentiments that have not helped us in the time past. I think by now, we should be engaging, we should be intentional, and we should be deliberate in our analysis of who should hold public office. If we don't do that, and we still continue the way we have been doing things, you can't do things unusual and expect unusual results. It's pretty difficult.
All right, Mr. Salam, but I think, unfortunately, I'm sorry to disappoint you. We'll continue to do that because that's who we are and that's who we have come to be. And it's very necessary. You say we shouldn't be deliberate. Yes, it is deliberate. The use of this talking points. It's convenient for the elite to push this narrative all the time. They know that it doesn't really matter where the INEC chairman comes from and where the president comes from. In fact, if you look at past INEC chairman and past presidents, you know that it's never something to talk about. When President Olusegun Obasanjo was from the southern part of Nigeria, was president, where did the INEC chairman come from? came from the south. When President Mohamed Buhari was president, where did the INEC chairman come from? Came from the north. So it's really not. But this narrative fits the agenda of a circle of people. When they want to use it to keep the people talking and distracted, this is what they use. And it's been like that all over throughout the years since independence. Our leaders know what the talking points should be, but it's not going to be in their favor for Nigerians to wake up and look at the bigger picture. No, you need to be distracted by communal and bragging rights. Oh, the president comes from my area, and you go around boasting about it. Meanwhile, you have nothing to show for it that the president comes from your state. It doesn't mean that the roads in your state are going to be better than the roads on another state. The local government chairman is from my ward. It doesn't make anything, except you're a member of that inner circle. That's only when you enjoy the benefits of where anybody's just basically bragging rights and stuff like that. And they keep us talking. We'll talk about it. Nobody's going to beam the searchlight on this appointee and say what has been his contribution to humanity. Okay.
His antecedent.
His antecedents, his field. He's a professor of law. What has been his impact? How many books, how many journals has he written? What has been his contribution to knowledge, the body of knowledge and stuff like that? What is his position on federalism, on partisanship, on this over the years? Which interviews has he granted that will give you a clue to his mindset and stuff like that? These are issues that we should look about, but then, we are not going to look about stuff like that, Mr. Salam.
Well, I think that what should, and it is in the realm of should, be important to us is the substance and not the form. But unfortunately, and this is unfortunately, we are more interested in the form rather than the substance. For as long as we continue to look at issues from a pedestrian mindset, so long we'll be where we are. But I must confess that it does not necessarily matter where the INEC chairman comes from. What is important is it should be seen to deepen the electoral process in such a way that Nigerians will say, yes, we have a free, fair, and credible election.
Absolutely. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. Mrs. Sam, before we leave the election matters, there's this story that also came up yesterday. Court orders arrest of Professor Mahmood Yakubu for contempt. Justice Demi Ajayi of the Federal High Court sitting in Oshogbo, Osun State, has ordered the arrest and imprisonment of Professor Mahmood Yakubu for disobeying the court's judgment. Recall that Professor Yakubu just stepped down. Yes, we know about that. However, the court in its order delivered on Monday, before Yakubu stepping aside, stated that the commission's boss failed to implement the court order to relist national officers of the Action Alliance on its website. The party had, in a suit, sought an order from the court to compel INEC to release the names of which had been illegally removed from the commission's portal. And so, because of this, the court says, IG, pick him up and imprison him.
Lawrence, if that is the order of the court, Professor Mahmood should have his day in prison. You see, the truth is this. No person is above the law. If we are under the law and the court, even if the court gives a judgment wrongly, it still remains the judgment of the court. And you know what to do. Unless and until that is done, that is the judgment. And it will be sending signal, clear signal to others that nobody is above the law. If Professor Mahmood disobeyed as it's been alleged, the judgment of a court of competent jurisdiction, it should face the consequence. And it is even good for all of us. It only means that Nigeria is ruled by law. that we are under the law and that no man is above the law. I am in support of the judgment of the court, and I'm not in support of any disobedience. We must allow the rule of law to prevail, and not the rule of the mighty, nor the rule of the hand, and not even self-help. Resort to self-help is even the worst. Let us allow the rule of the law to prevail. It does not matter whether the judgment was per incuria, was given in error. It doesn't matter. The fact still remains that that is the judgment. And of course, thank God that there is hierarchy, of course. You see what I'm saying? So, if we are better off allowing the rule of law to prevail than to resort to self-help, who are we to say that the judgment was not right or wrong? What is right or wrong? If it regards issues to be settled, is the court that has the final say on it. Thank God, it is not the court of Osogbo in Osogbo that has the final say. There is hierarchy, of course. The Court of Appeal is there. It could quash it. And the Supreme Court is there. And, of course, you can go for there is relief. You can seek relief if you feel that the judgment is not what's supposed to be. But the fact remains that if that is the judgment as we speak today, that is the position of the law.
Okay, so, but from your experiences about court orders and stuff like that, is Professor Yakubu likely to be arrested?
Of course, he will not be arrested. Nobody will even touch him. Nobody. And that is wrong. Because it is not... You see, this is why the judges at times, they feel frustrated. You see what I'm saying? For example, if it were to be a common man, in fact, since yesterday, he will be in jail.
A common man will not even think twice about obeying a court order.
Let's just take it for whatever. That a common man, by now, the police will have been in his house looking for, they will have gotten him. Let me tell you, rather than Professor Mahmoud to be in any prison, whether in Osogbo, Kuje, or Kirikiri, I'm very sure that if it's not in Maitama now, it's in Transcorp.
Okay.
And he will not bother about it because he knows that nothing will happen.
All right, still talking about the police, Mr. Sandler. This story from the Nation newspaper. Police put tinted glass enforcement on hold. This story has been on for the last, I think, 2 weeks or thereabout, to be or not to be. The police have suspended the enforcement of the tinted glass permit after being served a court order. Spokesman of the Federal Capital Territory Police Command, Josephine Ade, stated this during an interview on national television. She said, there's a quote here, information reaching me from the office of the PRO is that the order has been received and the enforcement of the tinted police is now on hold pending the court's verdict. We are waiting for the verdict. We are not against the court, and we will continue to wait until we get a verdict. This seems to be in line with what you are saying.
Well, it's just that, you see, selective enforcement of court orders. If it suits them, they do it. Even if it doesn't suit them, they don't have a choice because of the subject matter.
Okay.
Whose cars are tinted most? Is it your ladder? Is it most of the tinted cars are the cars of the real people, the real Nigerians?
Are you saying we are not the real Nigerians?
Of course, we are Nigerians. You know, you and I know that we are Nigerians. We are. You are right. We are Nigerians. But
there are others who are more Nigerian than us.
Unless if you did not read Animal Farm, George Orwell, 1984. Some animals are equal.
But some are more equal than others. Okay. Thank you for reminding us, Mr. Salame. All right, Mr. Salami, I think we can still squeeze in one more story before we go. I don't know what's happening to the phone lines. It keeps flashing and cutting and flashing and cutting. All right, don't worry. Maybe you can just squeeze in one more call. 0903 2222 0903 and 0818 Please just try to. I can see Greg trying to call in, but the call is cutting. Greg, just want make it one more time whether you can make it. Mr. Salami, look at the story here. The power struggle in the People's Democratic Party National Working Committee has deepened the crisis in the opposition platform ahead of next month's national convention. A fresh discord is triggered by the decision of the divided NWC to dissolve. I think this is a story that we have taken. Yes, because I know that this story, we've trashed it a few days ago in the program. So, well, Mr. Salami, I think that's all we have for today. Thank you so much, as usual, for your in-depth analysis on the show.
We are here because of the people. We will continue to work for the people, and we want it to be as participatory and inclusive as it should. We welcome opinions. Let ideas clash.
Thank you so much, Mr. Salman Salami. And that's our package on the show today. The program returns tomorrow, 7 a.m. As usual, bright and early. My name is Lawrence Moite. Don't forget, at 8:45, we will be hosting the Trust Fund Pensions Show. So, join us then. But for now, enjoy the rest of your day.